Hey, what's up, webheads? I'm Greg Elliott. You're watching Screen Rant, and Spider-Man is back. Somehow, against all the odds, Marvel and Sony have made nice and actually reached an agreement to keep Spidey in the MCU. Did you ever have any doubt? Well, I did, and the last few weeks have definitely been a bit difficult for us MCU Spider-Man fans. Far From Home was released recently on video, and yeah, I've watched those credit scenes like a billion times now, but I feel like even that was overshadowed by the thought that we might never get to see how those played out. What the But yeah, Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios have made a new deal, but there's a key difference between the way this one was put together compared to the last one. The original deal back in 2015 was done pretty much out in the open, which might have been in no small part due to that big Sony hack of 2014, because drafts of the deal had actually already been made public. But since then, as you know, Marvel Studios has become a lot more secretive with its stuff and plays things a lot closer to the chest, no longer doing things like announcing 5 years of films all at once, which means that this time around the new Spider-Man agreement is a lot more mysterious. So here's how the original Sony Marvel deal was laid out. Back in 2014, after the not great performance of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Marvel approached Sony with an unprecedented offer to share Spider-Man. Sony would keep the film rights, but Marvel would get to produce a new series of Spider-Man films for them. Sony would pay for and distribute the movies, and Marvel would only get 5% of the profits. But in return, they would be able to use this new version of Spider-Man in some of their own MCU films. Now, Sony did initially reject the offer, but after that hack exposed a lot of behind-the-scenes issues, I guess they decided to reconsider. The original deal covered 5 films, starting with Captain America: Civil War, then continuing through Spider-Man: Homecoming, Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame, and Spider-Man: Far From Home. Tom Holland was signed up for 2 movies after that, but those weren't part of the agreement, and well, that brings us to the new deal. This deal covers 2 more films, a Spider-Man 3 due in July 2020, and then some other mystery Marvel movie, both of which will be produced by Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige, but the terms are definitely a little different this time around. It looks like this time Marvel will now get 25% of the profits rather than the original 5%, but they'll have to pay about a quarter of the production costs now. And it looks like Sony will now be able to bring Tom Holland into their developing villains universe, which started with Venom and will continue with Morbius in 2020. So while at this stage nothing has been verified yet, it looks like Spidey will not only get to stay in the MCU, but get to join some of the best Spidey villains on the Sony side of things too. Kind of the best of both worlds, right? So the last question then is, what happens when this deal runs out? The biggest difference between the 2 deals is that the new one only covers 2 films rather than a whole slew of movies. It's still unclear what Marvel and Sony plan to do after these 2 are done though. Will they negotiate another deal, or will this be the end of the star-crossed lovers' story? Marvel could still write Spider-Man out of the MCU, which could be done in a really cool way, maybe involving the Spider-Verse. If they manage to somehow put Peter Parker in an alternate Earth or dimension, that does leave him free to cross over with Venom or Morbius or whomever else Sony has in mind down the road. For now, all that's certain is that Spider-Man is still in the MCU for at least a few more years, and we will thankfully get to see how they resolve that awesome post-credits cliffhanger in Far From Home. We'll definitely keep you posted as we learn more, so make sure to keep watching Screen Rant to stay in the loop. I'm Greg Elliott, and I'll see you next time. Peace.